Today, as part of our Let Your Imagination Run Wild series, we'll be talking with author Noel Tanti. Noel, could you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Hi, good morning. I'm Noel Tanti. I'm a children's author, but I work as a school librarian. So in the morning, I spend lots of time with books and with children and reading books and stamping books and lending books. And then I also spend some time writing them.
So you've also translated quite a few books, Noel. Can you tell us about a couple of them and what you enjoy about the translation part of books, obviously?
Yes, it's a very exciting thing to translate books. First of all, you get to read about characters and about stories which are foreign to a Maltese audience. Like, for instance, the latest book which was released right now today. It's a book about dragons, and in Malta we don't have a lot, if any, lore about dragons. So in translating it into Maltese, I got to know a lot about the folklore around dragons, the legends, the myths, the literature, and you get to be exposed to a lot of this culture, which is alien to us. Another series of books I translated, which were published late last year, were a series of fairy tales. Like, we all know fairy tales. We all grew up with fairy tales, like the Three Little Pigs, the Ugly Duckling, the Little Match Girl. But when you read them in another language, you realize how much these fairy tales are adapted according to the culture in which they are being published. Like, for instance, these fairy tales were published in Italian, so even when you read them in Italian, you get that Italian flavor in the language. And when you then translate them into Maltese, it's an enjoyable challenge, because you want to retain what was in the original language, and yet to make it relatable to a Maltese audience. So yes, mostly that's why I love translating books.
Very interesting. I also know that you've also written your own book. You've already written one of your own book, and I believe you've got in the pipeline another book which you're writing. And they're both. Your first book is written in Maltese. So why do you choose this language? And do you think there are any particular barriers to using the language when you're writing a book?
Yes, my first book was published in 2016. It's called Fil Kamra ta' Jonas, and as you said, it's a Maltese publication. The story was mine, and being a picture book, I had to work with an illustrator, which I worked with Matthew Stroud. It was his first book illustration as well, but we happened to click it off immediately, so we worked really, really well. Yes, I love writing in Maltese. Of course, there are barriers to any language. If you take English, which is one of the most widely spoken languages, when you have a book which is translated into from English into another language, of course, there is going to be something which is lost in translation, because a language is not just made up of words, it's made up of the entire culture and the entire time in which it was written. So when you come to translate it into another language, yes, you are going to lose some things. However, you are going to gain as well. And that's how I like to think of writing in Maltese, where you are, rather than feeling limited, you are adding something more to the language and to the culture of that language. What was the other question? Oh, the book in the pipeline. Yes, I'm working on another book again with Matthew Stroud as an illustrator, because it's another picture book. I can't say a lot about it because it's still in the production stage. However, the idea of the story was Matthew's, the illustrator. I worked on it, so I wrote a story around that idea, and we're currently working on the illustrations. And so far, it's another amazing experience. I'm really enjoying working with Matthew.
Okay. Would you be able to give us a very short summary of your first book? What, if any of the kids viewing this this recording would like to perhaps purchase your book, what should they expect?
Well, fil-kamra ta' Jonas, it's about this boy, Jonas, who doesn't want to go to sleep. It's late, his mom tells him to go to sleep, and he doesn't want to. And he's bickering with his mom, and his mom puts her foot down and she tells him, "Go now to your room." And then he tells her that if his dad was there, he wouldn't be so strict about it. And then it turns out that his dad is not with them because his dad is in prison. Okay. And he's feeling guilty about it, Jonas, so he goes to his room, he goes to bed. But then something happens and he finds himself back downstairs with his mom telling him to go to bed, and he's confused what's going on. This has happened already, and he tries to explain it to his mom. His mom, of course, doesn't believe him. She sends him back to his room, and he goes back to his room, and the story goes on from there.
I guess we'll let it to the any of the children who want to purchase the book to obviously know the story then.
Yes,
to learn more about the story. So, Noel, as an author, do you have any unusual writing habits?
Well, yes, I do. First of all, I mostly write at about 3 or 4 in the morning. I don't sleep a lot. I basically don't like sleeping. If I sleep 6 hours, it's way too much for me. So I wake up early in the morning. My mind would be clear and I would be very focused, yawning a lot, but focused. And that's when I write. I also don't have a fixed place where to write. Sometimes I write in the living room. Sometimes I go out in the yard, which is it's very helpful writing on a laptop because you don't need light. I go or in the study. I just move around. It depends on what I'm writing. Okay. And I also tend to find a specific soundtrack for what I'm writing. So I would stick to a particular singer or genre of music for the entirety of a project. So those are basically my writing habits.
Okay, very interesting. So obviously, I'm sure that as most authors, you must be an avid reader. And especially being a librarian, I'm pretty sure you come across a lot of books on a daily basis. Which authors or books might have influenced you?
When I was a kid, I used to love Sherlock Holmes, for instance. I remember taking the complete works from my father's shelf and reading through them. I love the Tarzan novels as well, and then I used to go for the horror books as well. I have this thing about horror stories. I love them, and of course I used to read Edgar Allan Poe, and I remember as well there was an anthology of ghost stories. I would go for that, but then every summer I had to read Trevor Zara's with Peprina, L'Avventure with Peprina. They were 10 stories. I had to read them every single summer. And with those, the Il Bawxati ta' Pietru Pitravu, and Ramon Sardinello. Those were like a staple of every summer. Whenever summer holidays started, I used to read them religiously, those books.
Probably a staple of most Maltese children as well.
Yes, I mean, everyone reads Traversara.
Yes. So, most of our audience are children and teens. Do you have any advice for anyone wanting to start writing their own books? And if they want to start their own books, where should they actually start from?
You hear a lot of authors telling you this, and it's true. The best training you could do to if you want to write is to read a lot, and to read a lot of different books. It's not something which authors tell you just so that they tell you to read more. It's not just their way of getting you to read. It's true. The more you read, the better you become at writing. Of course, then you need to practice. You need to write a little bit a day. It doesn't matter if it's a few words, if it's 100 words, if it's 200, 2000, it doesn't matter. As long as you write a little bit every day. But still the best advice is to read a lot, and to read, not stick to one particular kind of story. If you read a lot of different stories, it's better.
Agreed. Okay, Noel, one last question we've got for you, so which might also be very useful to our audience. What is the best advice you have ever been given, and which you could possibly share with us?
Going back to Traversara, he gave me the best advice about writing. We were at a launching with my publisher, with Merlin Publishers, and I had asked him that question actually, and he told me that writing is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration, and that's really the best advice. It's not just the ideas you have, but how hard you work at those ideas. Nothing comes easy. Even the best authors, they struggle to write. So yes, that's the best advice. 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Noel, for your time, and we hope to read many more of your books. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.